The nights are getting colder. The shadows are growing longer. And the season is getting spookier. So what better way to get into the fall and Halloween spirit than by sitting down and reading some really great short tales of horror. Today I'm going to share some of my favorite short horror stories that I think are perfect for the Halloween season. Some of them are classics, some of them I think are underrated gems, but they're all guaranteed to totally creep you out. So go ahead and dim the lights and grab your emotional support blanket because I'm about to serve up some scary. Here's 5 great short tales of horror. The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. This is the classic American folk tale of Ichabod Crane and his encounter with the Headless Horseman. Ichabod Crane is a local school teacher. He is vying for the love and affection of a local woman. He also has this rivalry with another man in town. All of this culminates to his encounter with the Headless Horseman on that fateful night. Out of all of the stories on this list, I think that this one is easily the most fall. The whole time I was reading it, I was getting images of golden tinted landscapes and leaves falling and crunching underfoot. I think it just has such a great fall vibe to the whole thing. The tone of harvests and feasts and celebration for the year ending. This is an older story. You're probably going to run into a little bit of lulls or maybe too flowery language, but I promise you if you stick with it, it is short enough. At the core of this is what I think is a really great, actually genuinely scary at times story about this ghostly, haunted specter of the woods, the Headless Horseman. The Cycle of the Werewolf. This is the longest of the stories on this. This is actually probably bordering on novella length, but it's still short enough that I wanted to include it on this list because I think it's really great and does a really great job of also getting you into that fall spooky season vibe that I think we're all looking for this time of year. This is written by Stephen King. Way shorter than what he's normally known for writing, and I think it's the better for it. This is the story of, as the title suggests, a werewolf. And what's really cool about it is that every single chapter is a month of the year, and every month we are seeing some type of an encounter with some person in this local town and this werewolf that's terrorizing everybody. But I think the biggest standout moments in it are during those fall months. It just has such a great Halloween creature feature vibe to the whole thing. I personally think this is one of the more underrated stories by Stephen King that not a lot of people have read, and I think it's awesome. I love werewolves too. Tapping into that kind of folky aspect that I think pairs so well with Halloween and this time of year. Definitely check out Cycle of the Werewolf. It is awesome. Carmilla. Most people associate vampires and the early vampire story with Dracula. As they should. Dracula is fantastic, and I would have put it on this list if it were shorter. But what most people don't know is that there is another story that predates Dracula, called Carmilla. Carmilla is a gothic novella-length story about a young girl who encounters another young girl through really weird circumstances. And slowly, her and her family start to figure out that something isn't quite right with this girl named Carmilla. This is one of those stories that I think the atmosphere is really great. It starts out in this tone of everything's fine, totally normal family, normal girl living her life, and now this new person has been brought in and weird things start happening within their home and outside of the home. This couldn't possibly be this new girl, could it? No way. Maybe, though. Actually, it definitely is. I think that this story is really great. It helps that it's on the shorter side. I think that its length is one of its biggest strengths, because it keeps everything so tight and compact. It has a lot of really great characterization, really scary moments in it. I really like a lot of the horror things that happen within this story. And for it being one of the earliest, maybe the earliest vampire story, like this is the OG, it's really well done. Really great, solid, like foundational things about vampires are in this, and I think they still hold up to this day. If you're into Dracula, you're gonna like Carmilla. The Rats in the Walls. This is an H.P. Lovecraft story that is pretty well regarded, but I feel like doesn't make the conversation very often, which is a shame, because I think it's great and super creepy. This is the story of a man who is trying to restore his old family home, but he keeps hearing noises and sounds coming from within the walls. And through investigating these noises, he discovers the truths about his family's past, and also this whole other horrific, crazy subterranean thing that's going on within this house. It's really unsettling. It's claustrophobic. H.P. Lovecraft, sometimes he can be really hit or miss, depending on the way that he writes things. But I think that this one is really good in its horror tone. I think that this is a super underrated Lovecraft story. I don't want to give too much away because it's so short, but I think it's just really well done. Super solid. And for my final recommendation, The Black Cat by Mr. Edgar Allan Poe. This is easily the shortest one on this list. If you're looking for something super short, start here. You could probably read this in 15 to 20 minutes. Just like with The Rats in the Walls and how I think that's an underrated H.P. Lovecraft story, I think that The Black Cat is an underrated Edgar Allan Poe story, probably because it's so short. Its premise, I don't want to give too much away because it is super, super short, but let's just say there is a man who is a drunk and a supernatural cat. That's pretty much all I'll say in an attempt to not spoil anything. While it is so simple and everything that happens is great, it's just a great, like, Halloween-y supernatural story. It also packs in a ton of, like, characterization, and there's so much happening, like, outside of it. The story is narrated by this main man who is an alcoholic and does some things that really aren't that great, and then it kind of has to pay for those things. But the way that he narrates the story, I thought was so interesting. I love the way that Poe writes this character because it leaves so much to you to be like, well, wait a minute, this guy. I think it's pretty amazing how he is able to do so much with a character in such a short amount of time. Just a very traditional horror story about a supernatural cat. It's good. Give it a shot. Again, you can read this one really quick. So, there you have it. There are 5 what I consider to be really great shorter horror stories that you can read to get you into the Halloween spirit, get you ready for fall. Let me know if you check any of these out. I'd love to talk about them. Hopefully you find a new favorite in there. I know that these are some of my favorites. Be sure to have yourself a happy Halloween, and don't forget to check your walls or your pets.